So when we're finding these first square roots, I highly recommend that you use your sheet of common squares. You also can just use your notes to write down the common squares somewhere. But basically I'm saying what times itself equals 49. That answer is 7. I also don't care if you put these in the calculator. The root of 225, if I put in the calculator, should tell me 15. The root of 64, it's 8 times itself. Since there's a negative on the outside, I use the negative answer, -8. For the next really 6 problems, I should explicitly use the calculator. So again, make sure you know where the root button is on your calculator. If I put in root of 5, I get an answer of 2.2360. I always want to round to 3 decimal places, as it says in the second problem, but really is part of the instructions here on these first types of problems. So there's 1, 2, 3 places after the decimal. I want to round to this number, so I look at the number after it. Since it's 4 or less, I can just erase it and leave this as my answer. When I go to do the root of 8, I get 2.8284. Again, I look after the 3rd decimal place. Since it's 4 or less, I can just drop it. When I go to do the root of 75, I get 8.6602. 8.6602. Again, I can just drop this 2. If it ever is more than 5, so 5 or greater, I'd have to round up the number before dropping. For this next group, again, I can just put it right into my calculator as 5, then the root symbol. If I put the 5 next to the root of 2, the calculator knows to do multiplication. When I press enter, this gives me 7.0710. Again, less than 4 I can drop. Make sure that when you're doing one like this, there's understood parentheses on the top. I have to do that subtraction before I do the division. If you just put it in as 3 minus root 11 over 3 with no parentheses, it's going to do this division and do 3 minus the result of this division, as opposed to the subtraction then divide. So it's important here to have those parentheses. If I put it in properly as 3 minus the root of 11 and parentheses divided by 3, that's going to give me negative 0.1055. In this case, this is 5 or larger, so I have to round up. What used to be a 5 becomes a 6. So I drop that extra digit, but in dropping something 5 or larger, I remember to round up. Again, make sure that you put an understood parentheses in this before you put it in your calculator. And then we're doing root of 3 instead of root of 11. So if I put that in properly with the plus sign, I get 1.5773. And I can just go ahead and drop that 4th decimal place to 3. When I go to take a square root of any of these situations, basically what that means is I divide any powers inside by 2 when I'm dealing with variables. I do that because it's an understood second root. We're going to see in the next unit when it's a 3rd or 4th or 5th root, we divide by that number. I know the number really isn't shown on these types, but we always know that a square root has an understood root number of 2. So this becomes y to the 4th divided by 2, which is really just y to the 2nd. This becomes x to the 8th divided by 2, which is really just x to the 4th. This becomes x to the 20th divided by 2, which is just x to the 10th. When I get to this problem, I really need to see it as 2 things being multiplied, specifically the root of 16 and the root of z to the 6th. The root of 16, something times itself equals 16, that would be 4. For z, we did what we did above, take the power that's there, divide that power by 2. Our final answer would be 4z to the 3rd. Here we keep the negative sign. We do x to the 10 over 2, y to the 2 over 2. That gives me negative x to the 5th, y to the understood 1st. Finally, when I have root of 25, x to the 100th, the root 25 comes out as a 5. The root of x to the 100th becomes x to the 100 over 2. So that makes my final answer 5x to the power of 50.